Apple has just done their latest developer conference, and they made a ton of interesting new AI announcements. But one of the biggest things people are actually talking about with this is some of the AI announcements they didn't make, and specifically in regards to Siri, a product that we were promised back in 2024 was going to get a major overhaul from AI by today. But that update did not materialize. Instead, though, they did give an estimation on the timeline, and they did reveal a couple other interesting AI products. I want to break down all of what's going on with Apple because I think this is absolutely fascinating. They've actually outsourced a whole bunch of what they're using AI for today to OpenAI. So I want to break all of that down. But before I get into that, I wanted to mention if you've ever wanted to test out all of the latest AI models without having to pay a subscription to every single platform, I'd love for you to try my startup AI Box. AI Box has over 40 different of the top AI models on there from OpenAI, Anthropic, you have Claude, you have Meta, Mistral, NVIDIA, Qwen, X, and you also have a ton of different image generation models like Ideogram, OpenAI's latest image generation models, Flux, which is what Grok uses, the audio models from 11 Labs, a ton of interesting stuff. It's all $20 a month, and you get access to all of that. So if this is interesting, go check it out. The link is aibox.ai. It's my own startup, and so if you see any interesting features, we're actively developing, adding new things every single day. So if you're interested in seeing new features, new updates, let us know what you think. And I would love to have you try the beta of the AI Box Playground. All right, let's get into what Apple is doing. The biggest thing I think here that everyone's talking about, right? This is the WWDC 25 no personalized Siri. They did, show up some cool things. They have this whole new look, which is liquid glass. They have a bunch of, you can modify how your iPhone looks and all of your icons on there. And that's all like cool and stuff. Apple's SVP of software engineering, that's Craig Federighi, he only gave Siri a very small update. He hardly mentioned it in his keynote address at all. This is what he said. He said, as we've shared, we are continuing to work to develop the features that make Siri even more personal. This work needs more time to reach our high quality bar, and we look forward to sharing more updates about it in the coming year. Okay, so a lot of people were pretty gutted about this because I have friends that literally went out and bought the brand new iPhone because it was dubbed as the Apple Intelligence iPhone with, the latest in Siri intelligence coming soon, Apple Intelligence mixed with Siri's personalization coming soon, and it has yet to materialize. And instead, what you get a lot of times when you ask Siri a question is it just kicks you over to ChatGPT and it's like, hey, well, why don't you just ask ChatGPT this question? I think one thing that's pretty interesting here is the time frame. So he said the coming year. I think this pretty much means we're not going to get any news from the new Siri until 2026. That's a huge delay when we have tools like ChatGPT, which have voice mode on them, which essentially is exactly what I'd ever want Siri for. Everything you ask, it can give you a response. It can send you links. It transcribes your whole conversation. It can tell you about anything that you want. Supernatural language. I mean, when you think of Siri and kind of its robotic voice, this is completely different. So I think that OpenAI has kind of taken the cake when it comes to this specific feature. Now, Apple is going to do something completely revolutionary, and they probably still will in the future. And this is what everyone was excited about, and that's the fact that Siri, beyond just being able to kind of be this voice assistant that can chat with you like ChatGPT can, it was actually going to take action across your app. So we were talking about, who even needs half the startups that exist today? Maybe they're going to go away because you're going to talk to Siri and tell it to do something and it'll go, complete a task for you without you actually needing to use tools to complete that task. It was going to be able to go and execute things on apps and access all your personal information. It was going to know your relationship status. It was going to know where you worked, all this information about you, and be able to, be your personal assistant. So this hasn't materialized. When it does, I will be very excited, but I'm not holding my breath at this point because Apple is notoriously late on all things AI. There's a meme going around right now, and I promise I'll stop putting Apple through the ringer and talk about some cool things that they have announced with AI. But the last thing is this meme that's going around right now, which is the fact that Apple just released a paper where essentially it's a paper saying like, ChatGPT, these LLMs, they don't have true intelligence. They're just really good at pattern recognition, yada, yada. Kind of, I don't know about everybody else, but this is what nerds have known for a very long time. Yes, these things are not actual thinking sentient beings. This is just algorithms and, it's memorizing patterns. Sure. Yeah. Obviously this thing's it's a robot, it's code. So, Apple put out a whole paper on that and they're like, see guys, but anyways, the whole meme is that instead of Apple coming out with some technology to actually compete in the AI space, they're just putting out papers about how unintelligent these LLM models are, where it's like, I don't know. They're incredibly popular. ChatGPT has 600 million monthly active users, so obviously this is what users want. So I don't know. I think kind of crap talking the latest AI tools instead of putting anything out, it leaves a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths when their own products are delayed by years at this point. Since this new Apple Siri was announced back in 24, so it's a little bit now. I'll be completely behind. Is this never going to materialize? What's the state of it? Bloomberg recently put out a very interesting report that essentially said that there is a version of Siri that is functional. People are actually able to use it. It has this kind of more personalized version of Siri. But the problem is that it is not perfect. And Apple obviously has to be perfect at everything it does. So what they were saying was that of the responses that this new Apple Siri gets, only about 66% of them are accurate. So about a third of the time, it's giving inaccurate responses or just not doing a good job. And so, this is the one we're talking about where we actually can take control of apps and do things. And I understand this is a very tricky technical problem. OpenAI has done a phenomenal job with their operator tool, which I use frequently. That it's also not perfect, but I still do use it because it helps me speed up a lot of tasks that I do. But it is $200 a month, so it's not free. You definitely are paying for it. And I just think that it's a tricky problem. I feel like it's got to be harder for OpenAI with Operator, where it's like desktop and it's expected to do everything. iPhone, it's only expected to do things on your phone and iPhone apps, which is a lot of software. I will give them that, but typically these softwares are a little bit simpler UI. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm being hard on it because it is a tricky problem. But Apple is definitely more delayed than they would like, and Operator's been out for many months now. So if they were even at the same level as OpenAI, they probably should have pushed something, but they haven't. What does this mean for Apple? Where are they? They officially announced in March of this year that they are pushing back the launch. They didn't say when, but they just said that Siri's update was going to take longer to deliver than they had planned. They also grabbed the SVP of machine learning and AI strategy. They pulled him off of the Siri project and put Mike Rockwell, who had worked on the Vision Pro, in charge of that. So all of this, shaking up the whole company and everything that's going on, was showing to a lot of people, or telling to a lot of people, that Apple's trying to get everything back on track. They obviously stumbled on a major release. And I think this kind of suggests that Apple's AI technology was definitely behind everything coming out of OpenAI, Google, Anthropic. Investors seem not to have worried too much about it, but I would be worried. I think Google takes a pretty hard beating when their AI doesn't do a great job. But Google, to be fair, has an incredible tool with Gemini 2.5 Pro. They've incorporated this into the Google homepage with AI mode. Like, Google is making some big strides, and I will, for whatever, I like to roast every AI company for different reasons, and Google, of course, is a fun one to pick on. But at the end of the day, Google has put out some incredible technology. It works really well, and they're rolling out to billions of users. And they've also been doing this for years. They came up with their first AI model, Bard, years ago, or over a year ago. So I think you have to give them their flowers, and Apple has not. So it's not a great look, in my opinion. So in the meantime, what are they doing, right? They kind of have this issue. They partner with OpenAI. When you ask Siri a question and it doesn't know, it's going to ask ChatGPT instead. Apple also said that, so they were doing this kind of automated image generation and this kind of AI image generation playground thing. They're not doing that in-house. They're literally just kicking you over to ChatGPT's image generator from OpenAI. So they're using ChatGPT for literally everything. And then I will say these are the good things coming out of Apple. They did a couple cool things with AI. Again, possibly relying on some OpenAI technology, but I think they're doing a few in-house things that they have working good enough. So here's the cool things. They have on-device foundational models that developers get access to. They have live translations using AI. They have upgrades to their Genmoji, which I don't really care about, but some people probably do. They had a whole bunch of visual intelligence improvements. They have an AI workout buddy for your Apple Watch. They put AI into Xcode, so for developers coding, you have that kind of like GitHub Copilot and all the other people that are doing this. And they have introduced an updated AI-powered version of their Shortcuts app. So that's pretty cool. You can use that for scripting, automation, and a bunch of interesting things. So they are pushing forward some interesting things. To be honest, I think the live translation is one that I'm really excited about. I'm very interested in. And so they are rolling out some interesting features with AI, but they definitely are delayed. And this isn't me just trying to, bag on Apple. They admittedly are delayed on this Siri project, which I think is the biggest use case of AI, could be one of the biggest use cases of AI if they rolled it out. So we'll be curious to see what this looks like in a year when they finally bring it out, what competitors are doing, because Google has already put AI into their Pixel phones, where you can essentially do what the Siri promised to do. You can ask it questions and it can go complete the tasks. So Google's already doing this, and I'd be curious to see what Apple plans on doing. Because Google came out with, I remember seeing the Google phones, I think 6 to 9 months ago they came out, and now we're still waiting a whole nother year for iPhones to get it. So we'll see where it's at. I think Apple's in a tricky situation. They're making partnerships with OpenAI, so that it doesn't seem like they're completely, lost, but definitely a tricky situation. So hopefully they are able to catch up. Thank you so much for tuning into the podcast today. If you learned anything new, make sure to leave a rating and review wherever you get your podcasts, and make sure to go check out aidocs.ai, my very own AI startup. We can try all of the top AI models for $20 a month. You don't need subscriptions to every single platform. You can get them all there and use all of them in the same chat interface. You can switch what model you're using mid-chat. You can get images, audio, text, all generated in the same conversation. It's so useful, and I hope that you love it. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you next time.